All right, everybody, welcome back to the pod. We're trying to do a bunch of these this week because the election is right around the corner, and we're happy to be welcomed. We're happy to welcome friend of the show, the Bulwark's own, the Bulwarks, Will Saletan. Will, how you doing, man?
Pretty good. What's the phrase that I heard today? The Harris campaign is nauseously optimistic. I'm just nauseous, man. I'm not even optimistic, but the nausea is definitely there. How about you?
Yeah, it's a tense time, man, because people don't realize this, but Trump has never at this point in any election been doing this well as far as people knew or thought, right? I think even in 2016 at this point, most people thought Hillary was going to win. In 2020 at this point, most people thought Biden was going to win. In some cases, that might have been premature or misplaced, but people felt more comfortable. Right now, I think it is up in the air. Nobody knows nothing, man.
Yeah, I have to remember. Okay, so just so everybody knows, I'm a Kamala Harris fan. I am desperately hoping she wins. I after Joe Biden's, I have to remember that after Joe Biden's debate in June, I was just destroyed. He was awful. I was like, he's not going to pull out. They can't get rid of him. We're going to get crushed. It was the assassination attempt on Trump. So that's where I was mentally, and a lot of Democrats were mentally. So then we were all super excited when Kamala took off and did really well, and her favorables went up, and like she's running away with this thing. And now we're back down to what's happened in the last couple of weeks. It's closed in Trump's favor. And I look at the averages and I'm like, oh man, this is not good. But I just have to remind myself, Matt, how bad things were like 3 months ago.
True. But here's the thing, and I feel like Friday, I would say if you asked me on Friday, I would have told you Trump is winning. And then over the weekend, you had the Puerto Rico remark, right? This comedian at a Trump event says there's this pile of trash in the middle of the ocean. It's called Puerto Rico. And I started feeling like Kamala's getting momentum. And then she's going to give this speech at the Ellipse. But then she starts giving the speech, and there's a horn, a car horn is honking for the first 5 minutes of it. And I'm like, this is going to be a disaster. Then the car horn stops. Or no, it was a siren, actually.
It was
right?
a siren.
A police siren or something.
I don't even think it was an actual siren. I think it was somebody playing a siren into a megaphone or something.
Most likely. Is it a coincidence that Steve Bannon was released that morning? I don't think so. And then she gives a pretty good speech. And by the way, the timing, amazing. I mean, she just ends it as the World Series is starting. Great timing. And then I'm like, okay, she's got the big mo. She's got the momentum. And then Joe Biden goes out and at least seems to say, and I think it's like trying to discern what Trump or Biden said is sort of like trying to nail Jell-O to a wall. But it seems like Joe Biden called Donald Trump's supporters trash or garbage or something, right? So anyway, I'm like, okay, now Trump's gonna win. It's like I'm like back and forth. What do you make of all this?
Okay, so first of all, you just explained a mystery because I didn't understand why Kamala was rushing so much at the beginning of her speech. But because I'm not a baseball fan, I didn't know what time the game was starting. And so now you've explained it to me. She was probably desperately afraid she was going to run into the game. So
she literally stopped 1 minute before the first pitch. The timing was impeccable.
I'm going to bet you.
And it's like 8:07 p.m. Eastern time. So it's like precise.
Right. I'm going to bet you that she actually knew when the game time was supposed to start and that she had notes on where she was supposed to be, because she starts out, she's rushing it. And I'm like, why is she rushing this speech? This is really important. And then as the speech goes on, she slows down. And the start time explains this, that she was afraid she was going to run out. And then she slows down because she realizes she's going to make it, although only by, as you say, like a minute. Anyway, Biden's thing is, it's comical. It's classic Joe Biden. It's tragic. It's like, look, if you're a Democrat or you're a Harris supporter, you're just like, you got your head in your hands. This guy cannot stop saying, I'm going to amend the Obama version. Don't do stupid stuff. And Joe Biden just keeps doing stupid stuff. So I'm super grateful that he's not the nominee anymore, because as bad as this moment is, Matt, this would be happening every freaking day if he were the nominee. Can I defend what he said, though?
Please. Because I'm not
Okay.
sure. I'm not even sure. Okay, so there's a controversy right now where, like, some people say that Biden said that Trump fans or Trump supporters, Trump voters are trash. And then there's a different interpretation where Biden says, no, I was talking about the fans of this comedian
Right.
who made these remarks at Madison Square Garden about Puerto Rico. And then there's something to do with an apostrophe, whether an apostrophe came before or after the S.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know.
So I'm going to tell you what I think. What I think he meant, which is then there's a whole separate question of whether it was smart to say it. Joe Biden certainly did not mean that Trump's supporters collectively were garbage. I know that's how it sounds when you watch the clip, but in the context, let me just read the two lines. The Biden says, the only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. His demonization of Latinos is unconscionable and it's un-American. Those are the two lines in succession.
Yeah.
Well, the question is the his that comes after supporters. Who is that? It actually can't be
Yeah.
Donald Trump. Trump is not out. Trump is actually, just to defend Trump here, Trump's not out there demonizing Latinos. Okay. He's trying to appeal to Latinos. He's got the whole thing about, migrants and stuff. The comment was about garbage that Biden's referring to was this comedian who spoke at Madison Square Garden before Trump, who called, Puerto Rico an island of garbage or whatever. So the his refers to that guy who just demonized Latinos, okay, and not to Trump. And so the word supporter before there, what makes more sense is that Biden meant the only garbage I see floating out there is his supporter apostrophe S, and then proceeds to say the next line about his demonization of Latinos. That's what he meant.
Now, look, we're getting into territory of, like, Bill Clinton, like, that depends on what the definition of is.
Yeah.
So, like, when Donald Trump said a week or so ago, and I called him out on it, and he talked about the enemy within, and that we needed to call the military on the enemy within, and then he named Nancy Pelosi as or the Pelosi's.
Right.
I felt that it was appropriate and fair to say that Trump is saying that he may have to use the National Guard or the military against his political adversaries. But there are Trump defenders who said, no, Trump never said that. And
Right.
it's because whether you're talking about Donald Trump or Joe Biden, it is very difficult to actually know what they mean or what they say. You really have to parse the language. And so, in a way, it's a protective shell. They can always say, that's not what I meant. I didn't really say it, because it's so discursive the way they speak.
Okay, that is true. So I'm going to advocate a consistent position on both these guys. I want to be fair about what they actually meant. Now, you can argue about whether they're responsible for speaking loosely or clumsily and being interpreted. I'll defend Trump. When Trump talked about the enemy within, he's very loose in how he describes it, and that should alarm us. But it is true that in the moment when he said to, I think it was Maria Bartiromo, we might have to call out the military, he was talking about people who might get violent and unruly on election day. And then he goes, I'm totally willing to hold Trump responsible for subsequent comments in which he was asked. He was invited to clarify. I think Harris Faulkner and some others invited him to clarify what he meant by the enemy within. And he could have said, no, well, I just mean violent people. I don't mean them. But he said, no, Adam Schiff, Nancy Pelosi. And that's on him. And so correspondingly, Joe Biden, when he was asked to clarify what he meant about this, said, no, I definitely just meant his supporter, this guy, not his supporters collectively. So I'm going to hold both guys responsible for what they said. Trump is more culpable than Biden because of his further clarifications. But I'll also say about Trump, and I think you would agree with me, Matt, some of the stuff Trump gets accused of, like what was the one about bloodbath? There's going to be a bloodbath. He did not mean violence.
Yeah, that one was unfair.
Yeah.
He was talking about the economic ramifications of Biden policies or something.
Yeah, bloodbath was one. What was there? There were a couple of others where Trump got accused of. The one where he said there won't be any more elections. You just have to vote. Christians, just come out in this election. You won't have to vote again. If you look at the context of what he said, he did not mean he was going to end elections in this country. He meant, you vote for me, I'll take care of the problems. The problems will go away. Yeah.
But I don't give him much grace because I don't think he's earned it. Like, I think that he has created a scenario where you can't give him the benefit of the doubt, because it's like, would Donald Trump say like, Like he actually might have said the bad. Like it's not out of character for him to have said the worst interpretation of those things. So you don't give him the benefit of the doubt because I don't think he's earned it.
I can't believe I'm gonna defend Donald Trump to you, man. I'm
That's
like the
the
Trump
state of
guy here.
affairs today. But
Yeah.
I'm also with you in the sense that I don't think we should. You don't need to take cheap shots. We don't need to take cheap shots against Trump. He says enough bad things legitimately that we don't have to manufacture them.
That's where I am. That's where I'm. I actually did a video for the Bulwark after they said the thing about Christians, you only have to vote this time. And what I said in the video was to, my fellow anti-Trump people, this is bull. This accusation against Trump. He did not say, that elections were going to end. And I said exactly I agreed with you on this point. There's so much he does say. Let's not lose our credibility by misrepresenting this thing or
Yeah.
misinterpreting it. So I'm going to defend Trump and I'll defend Biden here. Having said that, can you believe the idiocy of Joe Biden to step on? This was a speech in which Kamala Harris was trying to say exactly the opposite. I had a couple of lines from her speech. She said in the speech, the fact that someone disagrees with us does not make them the enemy within. They are family, neighbors, classmates, coworkers. They are fellow Americans. We rise and fall together. She says to people who are not voting for her, I will always listen to you, even if you don't vote for me. I will work every day to build consensus and reach compromise to get things done. That was her message. And Joe Biden, because he can't speak English, comes out and says something that looks like it's just the opposite of her message.
And again, to circle back to where we started, this is like a tied race. At least the polling indicates that. I felt like Trump had the momentum. Then I felt like Kamala had turned the corner and was gaining it back. And then Biden says this. And I don't know if does that step on the whole Puerto Rico story? Does that change the media? Like, I don't know if it even matters at this point. But if you care, if you believe that politics is at least partly about winning the day, winning the news cycle, he effed up, he like ruined it. And here, like less than a week out, like you do not like Biden needs to shut up as far as I'm concerned for the rest of the
Right.
week. You could talk on Wednesday.
Right. And I will say I don't know about news cycles. We're a week out at this point. But it is everyone pretty much agrees that because the polls are so close in the swing states, turnout will be a huge factor, and that the people who are most difficult to turn out are Trump's low propensity voters. And so making this a statement that looks like you're calling them garbage is one of the worst things that Biden could have done in terms of just giving a little extra juice so that Trump can get more people angry and get them out to vote.
Yeah, in football, this is called bulletin board material, right? It's
Yes.
where, you've got a big game. The Redskins are playing the Eagles or something. Sorry, they're not the Redskins anymore, but, the Chiefs are playing the 49ers. And, the Thursday before the game, one of the 49ers says the Chiefs are overrated and Mahomes is a joke. He's not good anymore. And then Andy Reid, the Chiefs coach, will take that clip from the newspaper and put it on the bulletin board and go to Mahomes and say, you need to prove that this guy's full of it. They're underestimating us again. And it's that additional motivation. And so the last thing you want is to give the opposing team bulletin board material. And that's exactly what Joe Biden just did, right?
Right. And I'm defending Joe Biden against the accusation of malice, but he certainly is. Sometimes the caricature of a politician is true. I will admit it turned out to be, the whole dementia Joe thing, Sean Hannity and all these other people put out, it was going on for like a year. And I was like, yeah, you guys, you keep pretending that he's worse off than he is. He's not cognitively impaired. He just has trouble speaking. Come on. I mean, we all saw that debate in June. Joe Biden he had verbal problems that are verging over now into cognitive problems. And it's evident to everybody. And this just underscores it. Again, he's not a bad man. He doesn't hate people. He's not the sort of person who would call people who disagree with him garbage. He's never been that guy. Trump is that guy. But Biden is fundamentally inept. The Sleepy Joe caricature of him is true. And so for all the reasons that you mentioned, yeah, he needs to just shut up for the next week.
Well, I mean, it could be that whatever condition he has, like lowers inhibitions or something. But I have to push back a little bit. Biden has always had a jerky side to him. remember he called somebody fat. Okay, fat. Or he'll brag about like my GPA was way higher than yours, and I went to better schools than you. You don't know what you're talking about. He said that Mitt Romney is going to put you back in chains. He said this
Oh,
to African Americans. So it's not
yeah.
just that he's incompetent sometimes, but he has a mean streak. And actually,
I,
I feel like it went away in old age. I thought I liked him better as an old guy, as a codger. I thought he was more lovable, but I think maybe that reappeared, and maybe he's a little resentful that he is not on the ballot, especially because part of the premise of Kamala Harris was, she's going to open up Georgia again. She's going to open up North Carolina again. She's going to win Arizona again. And Biden can only win, through the Rust Belt. But now it seems like maybe that's Kamala's only play, actually. Maybe she has to win the blue wall. But anyway, what do you think about, there's some sort of like suppressed anger that Biden has that he was pushed aside by Nancy Pelosi and Kamala Harris?
Yeah, no, I don't think it's look, part of my problem here. I'm actually curious about your thesis that younger Biden. I mean, I'd have to go look at the younger Joe Biden to see if there was a mean streak. I have not seen any mean streak from this guy in like 10 years. So, and I could argue any of those cases, like the one about, they want you in chains. That's also inept Joe Biden. He's not even thinking fundamentally about Romney. He's trying to talk to this audience. It's like when he said, "You ain't black." It's just the guy steps on himself. But I've been watching nothing but Trump rallies for like months now. I mean, I've watched everything Trump says. And this idea that Biden is deeply angry at Kamala, this is a Trump line. And it wildly exaggerates whatever. I'm sure Joe Biden was not happy because he thought like, I'm going to win this election, and he was wrong. But the idea that he's resentful of Kamala, if that were true, he wouldn't have done what he did, which is, okay, Chuck and Nancy, I'll get out. You guys are like, whatever you're threatening to do, dissociate yourselves from me. I will drop out. And the first thing he does is choose his number 2 and anoint her. And he cut off anybody. There were other people, trust me, who were talking about, we'll run, Gretchen Whitmer, we'll run Josh Shapiro, whatever the heck it was. He cut that off and he picked her. And she has been very loyal to him. He has unfortunately not reciprocated that by making stupid comments like this last one. But I mean, Matt, sorry, can I just bring up what is the most damaging thing that Kamala Harris has said in her short-lived campaign so far? It is
she said that there wasn't a big difference between her and
yes,
Biden.
That's it. It's Sunny Hostin saying, what would you have done differently? And Harris saying, there is not an issue that comes to mind. I mean, I think that's the most damaging thing she's said. And that's because she wouldn't dissociate herself from Joe Biden. And this is how he repays her. Sorry, I'm just angry about it.
But this reinforces 2 narratives then. It reinforces the narrative that says, they're mean too. They think we're trash. And so it undermines the premise of Kamala's speech at the ellipse. And it also reinforces the narrative that Biden's mad at Kamala for pushing him aside. So in one fell swoop, Joe Biden. So, but let me shift gears now, right? Because this is like, what's the old Yankee Casey Stengel quote? Don't anybody know how to play this game, or whatever that quote is. Kamala and Biden, it's like they're trying to lose. But Trump seems like he's trying to lose too, because I mean, so to have an insult comic like open up, and apparently, they took out. He wanted this insult comic wanted to call Kamala. I think it was the C word.
It was, yeah. We had this Bulwark special. This is our guy Mark Caputo had this story. So look up. Everybody
so they
read
pulled
Mark's,
that out.
Yeah,
and then last night on Fox News, Nikki Haley is on with Brett Baer, and she says, "Hey, I'm standing by. I'm ready to campaign for Trump whenever he wants me, but I haven't spoken to him since June." And you're thinking, if Donald Trump really wants to win this election, wouldn't he have Nikki Haley just come out there and if this thing could be within like a few thousand votes in Pennsylvania or I don't know, North Carolina, like maybe have her give a speech and campaign with him and try to win over some suburban soccer moms? Like, would that be a horrible idea? But he's doubling down on the macho Hulk Hogan, brother. First of all, brother, like that whole, like, I'd have to start talking. If I became a Trump supporter, I would instantly have to start talking like this, brother. I would have to look like you. By the way, Will Saletan, let me just say, you look like a badass right now. The beard, it's a tough image. I would have to grow the beard too. Anyway,
yeah, I'm gonna need to work out, and then I'm gonna need to get a leather jacket if I'm gonna actually look tough. I could not agree with you more, Matt. I mean, okay. The Democrat view of the election, the Democratic view of the election is sort of like, this guy, Trump is so awful, I can't believe we're not winning this. I'm sure from a Republican point of view, you could say the wrong track numbers are so bad, we should be running away with this. Why are we not? And why are we not? The answer is exactly what you said. Donald Trump is trying so hard to lose this election. And I can speak to this better than anybody else. I literally watch everything he says, every rally, every interview. He has people around him who are telling him, hey, here's what you need to do to win. Every so often, they get a little small win. Like they got him to open his speeches now with, are you better off today than you were 4 years ago, right? But for the most part, he just spurns them. He makes fun of, he actually, at his rallies, makes fun of, my experts told me not to say this thing, and now I'm going to say it. So one of them was the Nikki Haley thing, right? There was this story, like they're trying to get Trump to do an event with Nikki Haley. Because as you point out, that's the single best thing he could do to win this election. Got a gender gap, got a woman who was like popular with moderates and women. So he was asked about this. He was on Fox and Friends. Was this like a week ago, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah. I remember this.
They set him up. So what about having an event with Nikki Haley? And what does Trump say? I smoked that lady. I killed her by like 50 points in her own state. I don't need her.
Well, I think he started off and he was like, yeah, we could do that. That's not a bad idea. But, we really crushed her. I mean, why don't you ask me to why not DeSantis? He actually did better than her, It was great.
And this is like, and for people who don't know, this is one in a long line of Fox News venues, Fox News hosts trying to give this guy, they're setting him up like, please say this thing that would help you in the election.
Help me
do this thing.
Help you.
Exactly. And Trump's like, no, like I'm going to do what feels good to me, what makes my ego happy. And what makes my ego happy is bragging about how badly I beat and humiliated this person that you think I should recruit to do an event for me. It's amazing.
It is. Doesn't anybody know how to play this game? Apparently not. Two people trying to lose, or at least Biden and Trump both trying to lose. I think Kamala is trying real hard to win, but again, sirens keep going off during her speeches, so it's a little hard to concentrate with the siren going off.
Did you see what she said at the this morning on the tarmac? Right, she said she was asked about what Biden said about the garbage thing, and she says, so what do you think about what Biden said, what the president said? She says, first of all, he clarified what he meant. She doesn't go, here's what he actually, she doesn't defend him. She just says he clarified it. And then she says, I strongly disagree with any criticism of people based on who they vote for. That's a big backhand to the boss, in my opinion. And I don't think that's anger. I think that's self-preservation.
Yeah.
And I'm going to trust that there was some communication between the White House and the Harris campaign. Look, we're going to distance ourselves. Because one thing Joe Biden has often joked about, you probably remember this if you're a Biden aficionado, he often would say about politicians, I'll campaign for you or against you, whatever you prefer, whatever would help you. Like if you're a Democrat in West Virginia or Montana or whatever, and you want,
I'll attack you if it helps you.
Yeah, I think he understands people distancing themselves from him. But that was a big backhand. And I think she needs to do more of that, because she needs to, clearly say, in an election where people want change, I'm going to be change, even though I'm the VP to this guy.
Just for comedic purposes, and maybe Maya Rudolph's watching, but for comedic purposes, I would love to just, the thing about, so if you're into sports, right, you could try things out. You got 16 games or 18, however many NFL games there are these days, or 162 baseball games. But in politics, we do this once every 4 years. So you can't replay with different variables. But I'd love to play this election with this morning. She's like, let me tell that old effer to just get my name out of his mouth. I've had it up to here with Joe Biden. He needs to shut up and get out of the way and get in. Like, I'd love to see her go off on him. And what would happen? Like, what would Vince McMahon script if this were WWE and just do that? And like, I think it's like 50-50. She either destroys her campaign or goes up like 10 points in the polls.
Yeah. Well, it would certainly test. I mean, look, what do we hate about this campaign? I can't speak for you. It's been so stagnant, like nothing moves it, right? I mean, Joe Biden goes on stage, exhibits some stage of dementia. I don't know what you want to call that. Loses maybe a couple of points, like nothing.
Yeah,
like
it's like the worst debate in history.
Yeah,
and
like nothing.
There's nowhere to go. You know,
right?
As the Eagle said, he's already standing on the ground. So.
Trump, says he's gonna like terminate the Constitution, loses no elite support. Trump says, "I'm gonna we need the enemy within is more dangerous than the North Koreans or China or whatever." He doesn't lose it. No, nothing moves. So what you're describing, that would just test the proposition. Can anybody be moved?
It would
might go both ways.
Because Trump can't. I don't think Trump. So Trump can't move the numbers by being more outrageous. Trump could move them if he actually went before the American public and said, I got to be honest with you. I've said a lot of things over the years that are a little, that's me. That's who I am. But look, I'm not going to go after my adversaries. I didn't do it in my first 4 years. I'm sure as heck not going to do it again. That's not who we are. I say crazy stuff sometimes, but you can trust me. Like if he gave that speech, so Trump being normal or apologize, admitting he was wrong about that. I've made mistakes. God knows we all make mistakes. Like, he would, I think if Trump being normal, that would be the shock that could actually boost him out of this stalemate. And then with Kamala, it would be her taking a big, like right now she's kind of playing this prevent defense. She's run a good campaign, largely avoided any errors except for the aforementioned one of not being able to like contrast with Biden enough. But she's done well, but hasn't taken big chances. So I think with her, the variable that could shake things out of the stalemate would be like a big, like a Sister Soldier moment where she like takes down Joe Biden. I'd pay to see that just for comedic purposes alone.
On the Trump one, I wonder if, and I'm not plugged into the Trump campaign or anything, but you can see how people around him seem to have scripted a way for him to do that. Like you specifically talked there about, I was president for 4 years. I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
I mean, let's set aside the sort of attacking the Capitol. Okay, he did.
Other than that,
but the part about they have a line that he's supposed to do about how I was president and I didn't prosecute Hillary. Like people talk about that. I didn't actually do it. But Trump, because Trump is so awful, even though his advisors have given him this thing to say, he can't resist always saying, I didn't prosecute Hillary. Oh, and I could have done it so easily. Oh, I could have thrown her in jail. You can see like the delight on his face. It's like anybody watching this would be like, I'm sorry, I'm supposed to be reassured by the way you're talking about this.
All right. Well, this is the state of the race. I think we've summed it up pretty well, but final thoughts, my friend, or anything you want to plug before I get you out of here?
I'm working on a thing right now about, because I saw that you had just written about the Christians invoking faith as a reason to support Trump and saying you can't vote Democratic. And I very much agreed with what you wrote.
Thank you.
And I'm working on something right now about Trump and people around Trump claiming that he is a vessel of God and that God not only saved his life when during the assassination attempt, which I think is a totally legitimate thing to say. People would be grateful to God but not only that, but that God did so because God wants him to be president and, invoking that as a reason to vote for him, which I think is an abuse and an abomination of faith. Yeah,
I agree. All right, my friend, thank you for coming on. Always a pleasure. Read everything he writes at The Bulwark. Will Saletan, great talking, man.
You too, man.